Have you ever stood at the edge of a barren field and wondered where the harvest went? You poured out your sweat and tears, you toiled under the sun, and yet the ground seemed unyielding, indifferent to your efforts. Life can often feel like that years spent chasing dreams that never bore fruit, relationships that left you empty, and choices that now weigh heavy on your soul. And as you survey the landscape of your life, you may ask, where did it all go wrong? Has God forgotten me? But let me tell you something profound. God is never indifferent to your pain, nor blind to your struggles. What seems to be wasted in your eyes may be the very foundation upon which He is building something extraordinary. Could it be that the years you thought were lost were, in fact, preparing you for a restoration so grand that it will leave you breathless? What if every tear, every disappointment, every moment of despair was not wasted but gathered by God like seeds ready to be planted in His perfect time? You see, there is a promise woven through Scripture, a promise that the God who holds the stars in place also holds your life in His hands. He is the God who restores. He is the God who declares, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. But before you see that promise fulfilled, there is something you must understand. Restoration is not just about regaining what was lost, it's about receiving something far greater, far richer, far more meaningful than you ever imagined. Let me ask you, how do you view the empty seasons of your life? Do you see them as a punishment, a cruel twist of fate, or perhaps as a sign that you are unworthy of God's blessings? Or could it be that these barren seasons are an invitation? An invitation to lean into God, to trust in His timing, and to prepare your heart for the abundance He has planned. Imagine for a moment a tapestry intricately woven with threads of gold and silver. From the underside, it looks chaotic knots and tangles, colors that seem to clash. But when you step back and view it from the Creator's perspective, you see the beauty, the purpose, the story that only He could craft. Your life too is a tapestry. And while you may only see the underside right now, God sees the masterpiece He is creating. But how do you know that God is about to restore your wasted years? How can you discern His hand at work in the seemingly ordinary moments of your life? Sometimes He whispers through circumstances, nudges your heart through unexpected blessings, or stirs your soul with a deep longing for something more. The truth is, the signs of God's restoration are often subtle at first, like the first rays of dawn breaking through the darkness. But make no mistake, they are there. And once you learn to recognize them, you'll see that God has been at work all along, turning your pain into purpose, your trials into triumphs, and your wasted years into a testimony of His faithfulness. So, my friend, if you've been questioning, doubting, or even despairing, take heart. God's restoration is not a question of if, but when. And as we move forward, let me share with you 6 unmistakable signs that God is about to restore your wasted years. Let us explore these signs together, so that when they appear in your life, you will not only recognize them, but embrace them as the evidence of God's unending love and faithfulness. First sign, you feel an unshakable sense of hope rising within you. Hope is a powerful force. It's not just a fleeting emotion or a shallow optimism. It's a deep, unshakable assurance that something better is on the horizon. When God begins to restore your wasted years, one of the first signs you will notice is an inexplicable sense of hope rising within you. This hope doesn't come from your circumstances or the people around you, it comes from God Himself, planted in your spirit as a seed of what's to come. You may wake up one morning and feel lighter, as though the burdens that once weighed heavily on your shoulders have begun to lift. Perhaps it's not that your challenges have disappeared, but your perspective on them has changed. You start to see them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks, as opportunities for growth rather than barriers to progress. This shift is not accidental, it's a divine nudge, a whisper from God reminding you that He is at work behind the scenes. Think about the barren tree in winter. To the casual observer, it appears lifeless, its branches stripped bare, its beauty gone. But beneath the surface, the roots are alive, drawing sustenance from the soil, preparing for the explosion of life that spring will bring. Similarly, when God begins to restore your life, hope rises like the sap within that tree. It starts subtly, almost imperceptibly, but it grows steadily, reminding you that the season of barrenness is not permanent. This hope is not fragile, it is resilient. It withstands the doubts that creep into your mind and the negativity that others may speak into your life. It stands firm even when logic suggests otherwise. This is because it is rooted in God's promises. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." When this divine hope takes root in your heart, it becomes a beacon, guiding you through the darkest nights and the stormiest seas. Have you ever experienced moments when, despite everything falling apart around you, you felt a strange peace? This peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of God, assuring you that He is in control. This is what happens when hope begins to rise. You may find yourself smiling for no apparent reason, or feeling a renewed energy to pursue goals you had long abandoned. These are not random occurrences, they are signs of God stirring your spirit, preparing you for the restoration that lies ahead. Hope also brings clarity. As it grows within you, it helps you see life through a new lens. What once seemed like insurmountable problems now appear manageable. The past, with all its mistakes and regrets, no longer defines you. Instead, you start to believe in the possibility of a future that is not only different but better. This belief is not a denial of reality, but a recognition of God's power to redeem and restore. When this hope begins to rise, you will notice a shift in your prayers. Instead of asking God why things went wrong, you start asking Him to show you what He is doing. Your prayers become less about escaping your circumstances and more about aligning with His will. This is a crucial sign of restoration because it shows that your heart is being prepared for the blessings God is about to release. So, if you find yourself feeling a spark of hope where there was once only despair, pay attention. This is not a coincidence, it is evidence of God's hand at work. Nurture this hope by staying close to Him in prayer, immersing yourself in His Word, and surrounding yourself with people who encourage your faith. Remember, hope is the first step in God's process of restoration, a sign that He is turning the soil of your life, readying it for a new season of growth and abundance. Second scene, opportunities begin to open unexpectedly. When God is preparing to restore your wasted years, opportunities often begin to appear in ways that defy human explanation. These are not mere coincidences or random events, they are divine appointments orchestrated by the Creator Himself. These opportunities may come in the form of new relationships, unexpected job offers, or situations that challenge you to step outside your comfort zone. Each one is a sign that God is paving the way for your restoration. Think about Joseph in the Bible. One moment he was languishing in prison, seemingly forgotten. The next he was standing before Pharaoh, interpreting dreams and being elevated to a position of power and influence. Joseph's rise was not a stroke of luck. It was the result of God's divine plan unfolding at just the right time. Similarly, when opportunities begin to open in your life, it is a sign that God is aligning circumstances for your benefit. These opportunities often come when you least expect them and in ways you could never have predicted. You might receive a phone call from someone who offers you a chance to pursue a dream you thought was dead. Perhaps you stumble upon a resource or piece of information that changes the course of your life. These moments are not accidental, they are reminders that God is in control, orchestrating every detail for your good. One of the remarkable things about these divine opportunities is how they often require faith to seize them. They may not come packaged in the way you imagined, and they may require you to take a step of courage. This is intentional. God uses these moments to stretch your faith and prepare you for the blessings He has in store. Remember, restoration is not just about receiving, it's about becoming the person God has called you to be. Sometimes these opportunities are disguised as challenges. You may face a situation that seems overwhelming at first, but later proves to be a gateway to something greater. For example, you might lose a job only to find a new career path that is far more fulfilling. or a difficult relationship might end, opening the door for healthier connections. In these moments, it's important to trust that God's hand is at work, even when the path ahead seems unclear. These opportunities are also marked by a sense of divine timing. Have you ever noticed how things seem to fall into place when you least expect it? A conversation leads to a breakthrough, or a long closed door suddenly swings open. This is God's way of reminding you that He is never late. His timing is perfect, and when He begins to restore your life, every detail will align according to His plan. When opportunities begin to open, you may also notice a shift in your spirit. There is a renewed energy, a sense of purpose that propels you forward. You start to dream again, to believe that the future holds more than the pain of the past. This is not just your imagination, it is God awakening your heart to the possibilities He has prepared for you. If you find yourself in a season where opportunities seem to be appearing out of nowhere, take it as a sign that God is at work. Approach these opportunities with prayer, seeking His guidance every step of the way. Remember, not every open door is from God, but when He is behind it, there will be a peace that surpasses all understanding. God's restoration often begins with these unexpected opportunities, each one a step on the path to reclaiming what was lost. Pay attention to the doors He is opening in your life, and don't be afraid to walk through them. Trust that He is leading you to a place of abundance, where the years that seemed wasted will be redeemed in ways you never thought possible. Third sign, you experience divine connections. One of the clearest signs that God is about to restore your wasted years is the arrival of divine connections, people He places in your life for a specific purpose, at just the right time. These are not ordinary relationships, they are God-ordained encounters that propel you closer to your destiny. These individuals may come as mentors, encouragers, or even as challenges meant to refine you. They arrive not by accident, but as part of God's master plan for your restoration. Consider the story of Ruth and Naomi. Ruth's decision to stay with Naomi led her to Boaz, a man who played a crucial role in her redemption and restoration. Without Naomi, Ruth would have never found herself in the fields of Boaz. This is the beauty of divine connections. God orchestrates relationships to align with His purpose for your life. These people may be the answers to prayers you haven't even spoken yet. Divine connections often come into your life in unexpected ways. You may meet someone during a difficult season who offers wisdom, guidance, or resources you need to move forward. These individuals are often equipped with the very tools that complement your journey of restoration. Their words, actions, or even presence can reignite your hope and remind you that God's hand is at work in your life. What's remarkable about divine connections is how they often reflect God's timing. They arrive when you're ready to receive what they have to offer, not a moment sooner or later. These people may have been on a journey of their own, preparing to intersect with yours at the exact point when their impact will be most profound. When these connections appear, it's a reminder that God's plan is intricate and intentional. Divine connections are not always easy to recognize at first. Sometimes they come disguised as challenges or even conflicts. A person may enter your life and push you out of your comfort zone, challenging you to grow in ways you never imagined. While this may feel uncomfortable, it is often part of God's refining process. These relationships serve to shape you into the person God has called you to be. You will know a divine connection by the fruit it bears in your life. These relationships bring peace, clarity, and encouragement. They inspire you to pursue God's will and align your life with His purpose. Unlike toxic relationships that drain your energy, divine connections breathe life into you. They remind you of your worth, your calling, and the promises of God. If you're in a season of waiting, don't be discouraged. Pray for discernment to recognize the divine connections God is preparing for you. Be open to meeting new people and stepping into unfamiliar situations. Often God uses these moments to bring the right people into your life. Remember, restoration is not a solo journey. God uses His people to bless, guide, and walk alongside you as He brings you into a season of abundance. Fourth sign, your heart feels drawn closer to God. One of the most profound signs that God is preparing to restore your wasted years is when your heart feels an undeniable pull toward Him. This is not a fleeting emotion or a temporary spiritual high. It is a deep, consistent yearning to be closer to God, to know Him more intimately, and to align your life with His will. When this happens, it is a clear indication that God is at work in your life, drawing you into His presence to prepare you for the restoration He has planned. This pull toward God often begins subtly. Perhaps you find yourself waking up with a desire to pray, even if you don't know what to say. Or maybe you feel a sudden urge to open your Bible and read, only to discover a verse that speaks directly to your current situation. These moments are not random, they are God's way of inviting you into deeper communion with Him. He is gently reminding you that no matter how far you feel from Him, He has never been far from you. As you respond to this pull, you'll notice a shift in your priorities. Things that once seemed so important, material possessions, worldly achievements, or the approval of others, begin to lose their hold on your heart. Instead, you find yourself longing for things that carry eternal significance. You want to experience God's presence, hear His voice, and walk in obedience to His will. This is a key part of the restoration process because it recenters your life on the One who can truly restore and fulfill you. When your heart is drawn closer to God, you also begin to see your circumstances through His perspective. What once felt like an insurmountable loss or an unfair setback starts to look like a stepping stone in His greater plan. You realize that the pain and struggles you've endured are not wasted. They are tools God is using to the person He created you to be. This shift in perspective doesn't necessarily change your circumstances, but it changes you, and that is the foundation of true restoration. A closer relationship with God also brings a sense of peace that surpasses all understanding. This peace doesn't mean that life becomes easy or that your problems suddenly disappear. Instead, it means that you can rest in the knowledge that God is in control, even when life feels chaotic. You begin to trust Him more deeply, not just with the good parts of your life, but with the broken and painful parts as well. This trust allows you to let go of the need to control everything and instead lean into His sovereignty. When your heart is drawn closer to God, it also becomes more sensitive to His voice. You start to recognize the subtle ways He speaks to you through Scripture, through prayer, and even through the people and circumstances around you. This heightened sensitivity helps you discern His will and make decisions that align with His plan for your life. It's as if the fog of confusion begins to lift, and you can see the path He is laying before you more clearly. Another sign of drawing closer to God is a renewed hunger for His Word. The Bible becomes more than just a book, it becomes a lifeline, a source of guidance, comfort, and wisdom. Passages that you may have skimmed over before suddenly come alive with meaning, speaking directly to your heart. This hunger for God's Word is a gift, a sign that He is preparing your spirit for the blessings and responsibilities that come with restoration. Drawing closer to God also changes the way you pray. Your prayers become less about asking for things and more about seeking His presence. You find yourself praying for wisdom, strength, and alignment with His will rather than simply asking Him to fix your problems. This shift reflects a deeper level of trust and intimacy with God, and it positions you to receive His blessings with an open and grateful heart. As your relationship with God deepens, you'll notice that your faith grows stronger. Challenges that once would have shaken you now feel like opportunities to trust Him more. You begin to see trials not as punishments, but as refining processes designed to prepare you for the next season of your life. This faith is a crucial element of restoration because it allows you to move forward with confidence, even when the outcome is uncertain. A heart drawn closer to God is also marked by a spirit of gratitude. You start to notice the small blessings in your life and thank God for them, even in the midst of difficult circumstances. This gratitude shifts your focus from what you've lost to what God is doing in your life right now. It reminds you that His faithfulness is not dependent on your circumstances, but is a constant, unchanging truth. When your heart feels drawn closer to God, you'll notice a deeper sense of purpose emerging in your life. You begin to understand that your experiences, both good and bad, are part of a larger story that God is writing. This purpose gives you hope and motivates you to keep moving forward, trusting that God's plans for you are good and that He will use your story to bring glory to His name. If you feel this pull toward God, embrace it. Spend time in prayer, immerse yourself in His Word, and allow His presence to shape your heart and mind. This closeness to Him is not just a step in the restoration process, it is the greatest gift you can receive. For when your heart is aligned with God's, you are positioned to experience the fullness of His love, grace, and restoration. And in His presence you will find everything you need for the journey ahead. Fifth sign: God redeems what seemed broken. When God is preparing to restore your wasted years, one of the clearest and most profound signs is His ability to redeem what seemed broken beyond repair. Whether it's relationships that ended in heartbreak, opportunities that slipped through your fingers, or dreams that faded into the distance, God has the power to breathe new life into every shattered area of your existence. This redemption is not just a patchwork fix, it is a complete transformation that reflects His glory and goodness. The idea of redemption is woven throughout Scripture. From Genesis to Revelation, we see a God who specializes in restoring what is lost and repairing what is broken. Consider the story of Ruth and Naomi. Naomi's life seemed utterly broken. She lost her husband, her sons, and her hope. Yet through Ruth's loyalty and Boaz's kindness, God redeemed Naomi's circumstances, giving her a family and a legacy that would lead to the birth of King David and, ultimately, Jesus Christ. This story shows us that what appears broken to us is never beyond the reach of God's redemptive power. In your own life, there may be areas that feel hopelessly broken. Perhaps it's a relationship that ended on a sour note, leaving behind bitterness and regret. Or maybe it's a career you poured years into, only to watch it crumble without warning. These moments can leave you feeling as though your efforts were wasted and your value diminished. But God does not see your brokenness as the end of the story. He sees it as the raw material for something greater. When God begins the work of redemption, it often starts in ways you don't immediately recognize. You might notice small shifts, a conversation that rekindles a lost connection, a new perspective that helps you heal from old wounds, or an unexpected opportunity that reignites a dream you thought was dead. These moments are not coincidences, they are evidence of God's hand at work, piecing together the fragments of your life into something beautiful. God's redemption also requires your participation. While He is the one who restores, He often invites you to take steps of faith. For example, you may feel prompted to forgive someone who hurt you deeply, even if they never apologize. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning their actions, but it does mean releasing yourself from the prison of bitterness. When you take that step, you create space for God to heal your heart and potentially restore the relationship in ways you never thought possible. Sometimes redemption comes in ways that look entirely different from what you expected. A lost relationship might not be restored exactly as it was, but God may bring new people into your life who bless you in ways you couldn't have imagined. A failed career might lead to a new path that aligns more closely with your purpose. God doesn't just give you back what you lost. He gives you something better, something that reflects His perfect plan for your life. Consider Joseph's story. His brothers sold him into slavery, and he spent years enduring hardship and injustice. To the outside world, his life seemed irreparably broken. Yet God redeemed Joseph's suffering, raising him to a position of power in Egypt and using him to save countless lives during a famine. Joseph himself acknowledged this when he said to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." This is the essence of God's redemption, turning what was meant for harm into something that brings glory to Him and good to others. God's redemption is not limited to external circumstances. He also redeems your inner self, your heart, your mind, and your spirit. The pain, shame, and guilt you carry from past mistakes are not too much for Him to handle. In fact, He uses those very experiences to shape you into the person He created you to be. The lessons you learn through your brokenness become the wisdom you carry into your future. One of the most beautiful aspects of God's redemption is how it reflects His character. He doesn't redeem because He has to. He redeems because He loves you. His love is not conditional on your performance or your ability to fix things on your own. It is a love that reaches into the darkest corners of your life and brings forth light. As God redeems what seemed broken, you will begin to see the beauty of His plan. The relationships that were once sources of pain may become testimonies of healing and reconciliation. The dreams that seemed dead may be resurrected in ways that are even more fulfilling than you imagined. And the parts of your heart that felt shattered will be made whole, stronger and more compassionate than before. If you're in a season of brokenness, don't lose hope. God's redemption is not just a possibility, it is a promise. His word declares, He will restore the years that the locusts have eaten. Trust in His ability to bring beauty from ashes and joy from mourning. Even now He is working behind the scenes, allowing circumstances, people and opportunities to bring about a restoration that will leave no trace of brokenness behind. Redemption is a process, and it often requires patience. But as you wait, hold on to the truth that God is faithful. He does not abandon His children, and He will not abandon you. The broken areas of your life are not the end of your story. They are the beginning of something new, something beautiful, something redeemed, something greater than anything you could imagine. Sixth sign. You see evidence of God's favor in small but meaningful ways. One of the most beautiful signs that God is restoring your wasted years is when His favor begins to appear in small but undeniable ways. These moments might not look grand to others, but to you they carry the weight of a divine touch. They remind you that God sees you, hears you, and is actively working on your behalf. They are like breadcrumbs leading you through the forest, small but significant indicators that restoration is underway. They form the comfort of a pleasant welcome from the tempting evils of the world. Imagine standing in the midst of a storm, battered by wind and rain. Suddenly, the clouds part just enough to let a single ray of sunlight fall on your face. It doesn't change the storm, but it reminds you that the storm will not last forever. This is what God's favor feels like when it begins to manifest in your life. It's a whisper of hope, a quiet assurance that He is working all things together for your good. These signs of favor often come when you least expect them. Perhaps it's a kind word from a stranger that feels like it was meant just for you. Maybe it's an opportunity that seems to come out of nowhere, perfectly aligned with your needs and desires. Or it might be a small but significant breakthrough in an area where you've been praying for years. These moments are not random. They are intentional acts of God's grace, strategically placed to remind you of His faithfulness. Consider how God's favor worked in the life of Joseph. Even while he was in prison, falsely accused and forgotten by those he had helped, God's favor was with him. The prison warden trusted him with responsibility, and eventually that favor positioned him to stand before Pharaoh and fulfill his destiny. Joseph's story reminds us that even the smallest signs of God's favor are part of a larger plan, one that is leading to a restoration far greater than we can imagine. One of the remarkable things about these small blessings is how personal they are. They often speak directly to your heart, addressing needs you may not have even voiced. Perhaps you've been struggling with feelings of loneliness, and then God brings someone into your life who uplifts and encourages you. Or maybe you've been wrestling with financial stress, and an unexpected provision arrives just in time. These moments are not just coincidences. They are God's way of saying, "I see you, and I am with you." These signs of favor also have a profound impact on your faith. Each small blessing serves as a reminder of God's character, His goodness, His faithfulness, and His love for you. They build your confidence in His promises and encourage you to keep trusting, even when the full restoration hasn't yet materialized. Over time, these small blessings accumulate, creating a tapestry of evidence that God is at work in your life. God's favor is often subtle but unmistakable. It may be as simple as finding peace in the midst of chaos, or receiving clarity about a decision you've been struggling with. It might be an encouraging word spoken at just the right moment, or an unexpected opportunity that aligns perfectly with your goals. These are not random occurrences. They are carefully orchestrated by God to remind you of His presence and His plan for your restoration. Another hallmark of God's favor is how it often defies logic. You may find yourself experiencing blessings that you know you didn't earn, or opportunities that seem too perfect to be mere chance. This is the nature of God's grace. It is unmerited and abundant. When these moments of favor occur, they serve as a powerful reminder that God's blessings are not dependent on your efforts, but on His goodness and sovereignty. When you begin to notice these small signs of favor, it's important to respond with gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is lacking to what God is already doing. It opens your heart to receive even more of His blessings and strengthens your faith for the journey ahead. Gratitude is an act of trust, a declaration that you believe in God's ability to complete the work He has started in your life. As these small signs of favor continue to appear, they prepare you for the larger restoration that is coming. They are like the first blooms of spring, hinting at the full beauty that will soon unfold. Each blessing, no matter how small, is a reminder that God is faithful to His promises, and that He is bringing you into a season of abundance. Fast variations are so likely to reveal the truth to the test that restoring the foliage is the fastest route. If you've begun to notice these signs of favor in your life, celebrate them. They are evidence that God is with you, working in ways both seen and unseen. Trust that these small blessings are just the beginning, a foretaste of the restoration He has planned for you. Let them fill your heart with hope and your spirit with joy, knowing that the God who begins a good work is faithful to complete it. As we journey through life, it's easy to feel as though the years we've lost to pain, failure, and regret are beyond redemption. But let this message be a reminder that no season of your life is wasted in the hands of God. He is the ultimate restorer, the one who takes what was broken and transforms it into something beautiful and purposeful. The signs of His restoration are not just distant promises, they are already unfolding around you. Whether it's the hope rising in your heart, unexpected opportunities opening, divine connections appearing, a renewed closeness to God, broken areas being redeemed, or His favor showing up in small yet powerful ways, these are all whispers from heaven, reassuring you that He is at work. God's restoration is not merely about returning what was lost, it's about multiplying it. It's about taking the barren fields of your life and turning them into a harvest that glorifies Him and blesses you beyond what you can imagine. Trust His timing, embrace His process, and open your heart to the signs He places along the way. He should not rest on the scars and the waiting to be strength. He should not rest on His brow and simply expect the blessings of the world to come to him, like the flowers that glorify the sun. Today, hold tightly to this truth. The God who promised to restore the years the locusts have eaten is the same God who is faithful to fulfill every promise. Your story is far from over, and the chapters ahead are filled with hope, purpose and the abundance of His grace. So, lift your head and walk forward in faith. Your restoration is not just a possibility, it is a certainty in God's hands. The best is yet to come. This speech serves as a powerful reminder that no matter how broken, lost, or hopeless life may feel, God's restoration is always possible. It explores the 6 unmistakable signs that indicate God is at work, turning your pain into purpose and your trials into triumphs. Each sign represents a step in His divine process, bringing hope, opening doors, connecting you with the right people, drawing you closer to Him, redeeming what seemed broken, and showing His favor in ways big and small. This isn't just a message of inspiration, it's a call to action. It invites you to look closely at your life, to recognize the subtle and profound ways God is moving, and to respond with faith, gratitude, and trust. Whether you're waiting for restoration or just starting to see signs of His work, this speech encourages you to hold on to His promises and believe that your story is far from over. Remember, God's restoration is not about simply returning to what was. It's about receiving something far greater than you could imagine. Let this speech reignite your hope and draw you into deeper trust in God's unfailing love and perfect timing.